My guest is a wonderful wise owl. H. Norman Wright is a licensed marriage, family, and child therapist. He teaches in the grad department of Biola University. He's an associate professor of psychology. He was also associate professor of Christian education and director of the grad department of Christian Ed at Talbot School of Theology, where he is now research professor of Christian education. Now, I know that's a lot of artillery, and believe me, there's a page here, I could go on, but I want you to know that because of where we're going in this time. And I think it's important to highlight Dr. Wright's passion and focus on grief and trauma counseling and critical incident debriefings. He traveled 5 times to New York after 9/11, conducting area-wide grief recovery seminars. He is especially helpful to parents who've lost a child or a teenager. I just think of so many Americans coming home from war or not, and so many now facing the aftermath of natural disasters. Dr. Wright, you cannot retire.
No,
you are needed.
I don't want to.
And you told me to call you Norm, which is, after saying all that, is a challenge. 80 books. This one really deals with the whole of life. What's next? Navigating transitions to make the rest of your life count. What do you not cover in this book? It's every kind of transition, but you call these second half transitions.
Right.
What do you mean?
Well, when we get to a certain age in our life, maybe we hit 40, there's going to be more and more transitions, and the problem is that most individuals don't anticipate what the transitions are. They just sort of wait until it's upon them, it hits them, and all of a sudden they wonder, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? And it's those individuals who think about what is next and what will we do and how will we take charge of that. They're better able to handle them, and they don't feel like they're in a victim mode. See, transitions, what I call a transition is, it's like a bridge coming from one side to the other. And if we look at that as a bridge and realize that I'm going somewhere new, and I try to learn as much as I can about that in advance, I handle it so much better.
That makes complete sense. And you make the point early in the book, there's no point in resisting change.
Oh, it's there. It's going to be part of our life. And a lot of people don't like change. They're comfortable with what they've been doing all these years, but maybe there's a new way, there's a better way. I build the book in a sense on the story of Caleb in the Old Testament, where at 85 he was called back into, quote, ministry. But the phrase that's used there is that whatever he did wholeheartedly. He put himself into it. It was very positive. He just didn't go in kicking and screaming. It was, no, let's do this. Let's see what we can discover here and what we can learn and how we can grow, even at this age.
There is a risk of drifting, just drifting along. And you say particularly in 50s to 70s, it's easy to just let life happen.
Yeah, we don't think about, what am I going to do next? We just sort of believe, well, I'll work until this age, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do this, and then I'll just wait around. No, there's more to it than that. Retirement. People think I'm retired because of my age, and I never want to retire. In fact, the word retirement...
Are you telling, Norm? Are you telling?
74.
74.
Retirement is not a positive word. It means to withdraw, to shrivel up, to retreat. Now, redirect, reconstruct, those are positive words. And that's where I keep asking for me, okay, what's next, Lord? What now? I want new challenges. There are challenges the rest of our life. There's new ministries out there. There's new things to experience. And
Refired.
Yes.
Refired.
Refired
to live
is a good
wholeheartedly.
way. Yeah. But see, a lot of people, if we could sit them down, say in their 20s, and say, okay, you're focusing now on the 20s and creating your life and your occupation and everything, but let's do a advancement of the film of your life. When you're in your 30s, what are you going to be doing? What about in your 40s? What about, you have children, and you get to the place where all of a sudden the children start leaving, and then you get into that empty nest.
Within 2 weeks we were saying, should we sell our house?
That's right. And
like,
empty nest can throw both the mother and the father, especially if your identity was built in being a parent. And now you're faced looking at one another and saying, there's no buffer here, there's no children here. Where's our marriage going? What is it like? And then all of a sudden, you move into becoming a grandparent. But what if you anticipate being a grandparent and your children don't have any children? See, that hits a number of individuals. And then what?
Deep disappointment.
Oh, there's disappointments all the way through. But if you try to anticipate what happens when you hit your 60s, or when you do, quote, retire, then you get to the place of, you're really older, and the question comes up, what's the legacy that you're leaving? And that's something that we need to start thinking about earlier in life, because we have something to pass on to our children, to our friends, to the next generation. See, I've spent a lot of time teaching hundreds of individuals in grief and trauma counseling. It's like handing off the baton to them, letting them take it and do even more and create something new that I never even thought of. And it's having that attitude of just, encouraging others and leaving that legacy. One of the things we talk about in the book is, when we're getting toward the end of our life, when we get married, we plan a wedding. Well, we talk about, what about planning your memorial service? What do you want to have said?
I love the emphasis on considering, how am I going to be ready to leave this life?
That's right.
You don't have to be an old person to be thinking those thoughts.
No.
And it's going to take me, if the Lord tarries, it's going to take me from now till then to do the shoveling necessary. That sort of thing.
That's right.
I know there's no hate in heaven, but if anybody else had to deal with this stuff, anyway, sorry.
Okay.
Norm.
You can go there.
I've been thinking all these, this has been very timely.
Yeah. See, the thing about transitions, they involve change. You have to leave something, and then you move into this neutral territory, which feels kind of awkward, kind of strange, and then you go to something new.
What you call beginning.
A beginning.
Let's highlight this, because this was a very relevant and fresh thought about transitions, the 3 stages: ending, neutral zone, beginning. Every transition has all 3.
It does. And sometimes those endings are put upon us. You're not in charge of it. How do you handle that? Because that goes back to attitude. That goes back to what you say to yourself about that.
And what you say in the book is painfully true. That many people, let's say they've lost their job, there's downsizing, whatever, and maybe it wasn't handled very graciously. And they go into, of course, that neutral zone. What am I going to do next? And there's so much bitterness and grief over the exit. And I'll say, well, what do you do now? And they'll light up and tell me about their new job, the new chapter, the new beginning, but they're still looking back with pain at that ending.
That's right. And that's where we need to write a goodbye letter to what we left and take charge of it and say, yeah, it was painful, but here's what I learned through it. And now I can say goodbye, because this is the problem. There's so many losses that we experience in our life. And we live in a culture that does not talk about how to deal with losses, how to grieve, and we need to identify the losses and say goodbye to them and then move on. One of the things that I do with people is to have them make a list of the transitions that they've gone through the last 10 years. What were they? How did they impact you? What did you learn from them? What do you think are the next transitions you're going to go through? Try to anticipate those. And this puts you more in charge. It gives you the opportunity to look forward to, because many times I talk to people and they're still talking about what they left.
They're stuck.
But what did you move to? Oh, this. Like, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine was moving back east, and they lived in the same house, and he had 3 daughters, and he was concerned about them, how they're going to handle this transition. So what we did, we set up the parents and the kids, and they went in every room and they talked about the memories of every room in the house, waved goodbye to every room, did that to the backyard, did that to the garage, and all of a sudden the 3 girls were not looking at what they were leaving anymore. They were looking at what they were going to. And so for the viewers, my question is, are you looking forward to the future? It might be scary, there might be some difficulties with it, there might be some bumps, but you're not going into it alone if you know the Lord.
There's a pastor in the area who is trying to move his congregation into some new things. and the word change is not popular. So they are using the word forward.
All right.
Is that good psychology,
That's
Dr.
good.
Wright?
That's good. But we also have to accept the fact that, yeah, we're called to be people of change, aren't we? You know, change is not a nasty word. It's not a bad word.
We are being transformed.
Constantly. Constantly.
So much here, you talk about additional roles, and I guess that could be unexpected events amidst predictable changes. If you decide to go back to school as an adult student part-time, for example, or we have grandparents who are raising their grandchildren, not because that was their plan. These are all changes.
That's right. And as you get older, say from 50 on up, this is a time to start thinking, how can I continue to learn and continue to grow? It used to be thought years ago that, you know, your brain sort of shrivels and it doesn't stretch, but we know with neuroplasticity that your brain can always learn no matter what age. One of the best things that individuals can do as they get in their 60s and 70s, start learning a new language. It stretches the brain. I'm a pianist. I grew up playing the piano, so I like to get new music because it stretches my brain, it stretches my thinking. My hands don't always cooperate, okay? Because my brain will send signals, but there's a little bit of arthritis and they don't play as well as they do. But you just keep doing things and you keep stretching yourself, and that way you get the most out of life, because this is what God wants for us.